Hi, Tiffany. Welcome to Power of Women Wellness. How are you today?
I'm so good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. I'm excited that you're here because I love what you're doing and your history of your career. So
Yeah.
I'd love to actually just start there because you
Yeah.
have had a really cool career, PR
Mhm.
specifically, and working with really iconic people like Elton John and Alicia Keys. I love that. But
Mhm.
what made you leave that world to come to
Ooh.
this world in the entrepreneurship and the founder world?
Entrepreneurship. Yeah, I know. I count myself really lucky that I had 10 years in corporate before I made the jump into entrepreneurship, which was in 2011. So almost 15 years ago now at the time of this recording, which boggles my mind. But uh, it's a typical story. I felt like I had hit some ceilings, and I saw the opportunity possibilities for me were pretty clear at the time. Of course, maybe things could have changed, but at the time to
Yeah.
me, I felt like, ooh, I don't really see where I'm going to go from here. And once you see a limitation, if you're a high achiever like me, you go, okay, well, what's an alternative route I could take? And I grew up with entrepreneurial parents, unbeknownst to me, to be honest, because we didn't use that term back then. They were just small business
Wow.
owners, so to speak. But I had seen it, I had experienced it firsthand. And so the idea of going to work for myself wasn't a scary leap for me. It just felt like
Okay.
the obvious next step. And so people always ask me, like, were you scared? I'm like, I don't remember being scared. I just remember putting one foot in front of the other and setting myself up for success to the best of my ability. But yeah, I crossed over and started my own PR agency and ran that for over a decade. And gosh, the rest is history. I've done a lot of things since then, but
Oh my
grateful for every
gosh.
twist and turn.
No, I always joke and say like starting a business, we're in a little bit of like our own Delulu land of just
Uh-huh.
like, I don't know, it's gonna work out, right? And so I guess that's why businesses work because we go into it thinking that way.
Yep.
Um, I'm sure though a lot of your history with PR also came in and helped you with the business now that you have,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm on my fifth business now,
Oh
which
my
is funny. I was
gosh.
reading a book. I'm an avid reader, and I was reading this book, or actually, no, it was a podcast I was listening to this morning, and
Ooh,
they were talking.
share. Which one? I always love
Look,
resources.
I know, and it was new, so now I've got to like pull up my
You gotta find
history.
it.
I was sitting at a coffee shop. Side note, a small side story. I was sitting at a coffee shop last night, and this 22-year-old sat next to me, and he was working on his portfolio. I could tell he built websites, so of course we started talking. And before I knew it, we're talking about AI and social media and personal development and abundance mindset. He was from Serbia, and it was just this beautiful conversation. And he sent me this podcast to listen to that's called, I'll tell you, How to Get Rich.
Is that the
Um, that's the
episode name or
podcast.
podcast
Yeah,
name?
How to Get Rich. It was on YouTube,
Ooh.
and from what I can tell, it was like a bunch of tweets that had gone viral, and so they turned it into this podcast episode. It's quite fascinating so far. But my point was, he talks about wealth and the definition of wealth, and he went on this little tangent about if you can become wealthy over and over again, if you can experience success over and over again, now it's no longer a fluke, right? Now you've built up
Mm.
a set of knowledge, skill sets that can prove you advantageous over and over again. So even if you lost everything tomorrow, you would have the trust that you could rebuild. So I thought it was such an interesting take, because I thought, I've always told people I have built five multi six figure businesses, and it's never dawned on me that that is so much proof that it's not a fluke, that I can do
You
it
know.
again.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but to answer your question, yes, my PR and marketing background
Helped a lot.
has played a part of every single one of my businesses.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm sure that too, that industry is always changing as well. So if you love doing that, you're probably, on top of all the
Yeah.
things that are, what's working now and what's not.
Yeah.
And you said in your bio that you rebuilt your life and your business from the inside out. So I'm so curious on what that process looked like
Yeah.
and some of your hardest patterns that you can think of that you had
Oh,
to let go.
oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, my hardest pattern will always be, I don't think I'm done with it yet. It's the constant need to do, when what I
Mm.
know I really need to do is be. And
I love that.
and it's just in my nature, like it's in my bones. I feel it in my bones. And so Of course, I've had lots of tangos with burnout because of that. I've had lots of instances of, running myself ragged, and thankfully with age and time and experience, you get better at recognizing the signs and
Mhm.
knowing how to pull back before it gets too bad again. But all that being said, I've definitely been burnt out multiple times, and it feels like my lifelong quest, so to speak, is going to be always trying to make sure that I keep burnout at bay. And I'm not
Yeah.
embarrassed about that. Like I think it's okay to admit that you're a high achiever and that you want to serve
Mhm.
people well and create and do things and acknowledge that you have limitations and that you have to be really careful not to burn yourself out, and that this is my lifelong battle.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's honestly something we all can relate to. I feel like I can relate to that. And probably every entrepreneur that I've ever spoken to can definitely relate to that because
Yeah.
we all have these big dreams and these big goals.
Yeah.
And sometimes that can take us away. And
Mhm.
in a good way, though, because, we wouldn't be able to build a business without those dreams and goals and that
Yep.
ambition.
Yep.
But yes, at the same time, a lot of times when you get there or get close to that end goal, you're like, but I just don't feel well
Yeah.
anymore because of what I took to get there. And I
Yeah.
don't believe it's a either or. I believe that there's an and. I
I
do think
agree.
that you can build your dream business without that hustle culture burnout. Is there any bodily signs or mental signs when you
Yeah.
know you're approaching the danger zone?
Oh gosh, yes. And what I will consider forever as my big turnaround moment, so to speak, was 2017. I was coming out of a very short-lived and very toxic marriage that I thought was my solution to more joy in my life, because I was like, I have all these businesses and I'm doing all these things and I'm on the cover of magazines, and like, why am I unhappy? Oh, I must be missing love. Let me solve that problem as a high achiever, right? So I did, and it was a disaster. And in that recovery, with that like ultimate rock bottom moment where I went, ooh, okay, Tiff, you've made some major missteps here, and you have put yourself at the bottom of the to-do list, and health and wellness were the first things to go. To be honest, my yoga practice was one of the first things I let go of. My hobbies like gardening and having dinner parties were some of the things I let go of.
Mm.
And those are essentials, those
Yeah.
are those are what bring us love and light and joy into our lives. And so I've had there was a season in my corporate life where I was getting a lot of migraines, and now I know that was stress and overworking. But I would say that the biggest turnaround for me was in 2017, when I thought, okay, what am I going to do to prove to myself that I matter? I'm going to get on my yoga mat every day, even if it's just for 5 minutes. And I started with a 30-day challenge on YouTube, and
Aw.
I went 365 days of getting on my yoga mat.
Oh, I love that. I know you mentioned yoga, nature walks, breath work, and journaling as some really
Yeah.
core practices for you.
Yeah.
If you had to choose
Oh,
one
don't do
that
it.
that you felt like really changed the game with your nervous system, what would you choose?
I'm gonna have to say yoga. I have to,
Okay.
because yoga involves breath work, and yoga involves mental
Mm.
journaling in a way. Like, you're at one with your thoughts in those moments where you're like, I don't think I can stay here for one more breath. And she's going, three more breaths. And you're like, damn it. Okay, I can do
That's
it.
me in
Even,
Pilates. I'm like
yeah.
like mentally screaming on the TV, like, I swear she just added a couple extra reps.
Yeah, like I was counting. That was more than eight. Um, yeah, I'm gonna go with yoga just because it is such a beautiful practice in every way. But it's hard for me to not put journaling in the mix. I'm a
That's
I'm
my
a writer at
favorite.
my core, and I believe I was just this morning, I pulled out an old notebook and I found it was my thoughts from 2019 and 2020, which, as you can imagine, are filled with interesting insights. And I was like, wow, it's wild to look back 5, 6 years ago and see myself saying the same thing I'm saying now, which is good,
Wow.
right? Like, I think it means that you're onto something. Like, I love
Yeah.
that phrase, be onto something. It's from an old book, but I think it means you're onto something. I think it means you know yourself, you know what you want. And if those values are still the same 5, 6 years later, great. Like, just
Yeah.
keep going.
Yeah,
But
I love journaling. I would say that's probably one of my favorites, and it's absolutely one of the things we recommend. And then our patients give us a little side eye of like, that's so stupid. And it is, it's
yeah,
so simple, and it almost feels like it's too
it's
easy
too
that it won't
easy.
work.
Yep.
But there is something so powerful about, for me, I guess I've learned that I'm a visual learner over the years.
Mm,
But whenever I am like thinking about something, whether it's in personal life or business, good thing or a bad thing, it could be either or. I feel like I just need to like dump all my thoughts, and I find that I can think clear
mhm.
as I like write everything down in an organized pattern or even go deeper. I use the app Stoic, Stoic.
Yeah.
And I think that is it. You do pay for it, or maybe it's just a one-time fee and you pay for it. But
Yeah.
I love that I use it on my iPad, and I love that it's like password protected,
Yeah.
or Face ID.
Yeah.
But well, everything has AI now at this
Yeah.
point. But it was like you can start off with prompts, or you
Yeah.
can just journal. And I usually blank
Yeah.
page journal,
Yeah.
but I just did it the other day and I was like, ooh, it has some AI. So I'm like, as I write down my thoughts, I was like, okay, can you prompt me based on what said and like give me
Mm.
some more, like, how can we go deeper with
Yeah.
these? And I'm like, okay, this is pretty cool. So,
That
anyways,
is
there's lots of
cool.
cool technology now, but that's like my favorite way.
I love
And I
that.
think,
Yeah.
I don't know, I can really go deep, deep with
Yeah.
journaling.
And the funny thing is that we try to act like it's not going to work, even though there's tons of scientific data around journaling and how much it helps and works. And
Yeah.
one of the core exercises I do with every client that I work with now, and our very first session, I asked them to share with me like their day, 5 years from now in detail. What time did you wake up? What were you wearing? What did the sheets look like? What did you open the window? What did your view outside the window look like? We go so deep. And at the end
Ooh,
of
I'm
it, they're
answering those questions
yeah,
as you're asking them. I'm like, okay, I know that.
and at the end of it, they're like, "Ooh, there was a child involved. I didn't know. I didn't even know I wanted a child." Like things like that. I just got the chills. Because sometimes it's things like that where they're just like, "Whoa, okay, that's what's harboring in the back of my mind that I've
Mhm.
been pushing back, ignoring, not letting fully come to light." And once we know, we can't unknow, right? So there's all this data around putting your thoughts on paper and
Yeah.
how much it can serve you in ways well beyond what you even imagine, aside from the healthy cathartic dump that you're just like, okay, get it out of me. Like
Yes,
what's going on? Let me
exactly.
try to make sense of my thoughts. But yeah, it's
Exactly.
one of my favorites for sure.
Yeah. And I love it too before bedtime. I find that like a lot of our patients that are like, I know, but I'm just laying in bed and all my thoughts. I'm like, brain dump. You got to brain dump before bed. And they're a little nervous of it actually being stimulating. But I'm like, no, not really. I feel like I can rest easy knowing that it's all on paper. I know what I need to do, whether it's even a to-do list. It's like,
Yeah,
there's just something magical about it. And you're right. There's so much research, but it just seems too easy.
I know. I know. Sometimes the easiest solutions are the hardest.
Yes. Yeah, I feel like that's health in general, right?
Yeah.
Like movement
Yeah.
and eating healthy.
More vegetables, all the
Yes.
things. Not rocket science, and yet.
Yes. Um, I know you've worked with six and seven figure businesses. So what would you see is the biggest differences when you see businesses that are burning out versus businesses that are thriving? Like what are you seeing the founders do differently
Mm.
between those two?
That's an easy one. For me, the difference is I see a shift in the mindset behind the seven-figure founder that goes, I am not the be all end all. I don't have to do everything and I don't know
Mm,
everything. And there are people that are smarter than me that I can put around me to build something even bigger than what I'm capable of on my own. And while a lot of us might say we know that, it's one thing to know it, it's a whole nother thing to embody it and do it and act as if. So the first thing I would say is that it's a mindset shift from, oh no, no one can do it like me, and I'm not ready, and I'm nervous to put people in place that have direct access to my clients or something like that, to, oh no, this is the only way for me to get to where I want to go. And so therefore, what do I need to do? What do I need to learn? What skills do I need to develop? How can I get better as a leader? How can I get better as a team developer? Like, let's go. And
I feel like there's a little ego death that has to happen with
yeah.
that too.
For sure. Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
it's an ego death, and sometimes I was just talking to someone yesterday and I was kind of asking her, what do you think it is? Do you think it's fear of failure, like fear that they won't be able to do it well, or is it fear that you're not necessary anymore? And
Oh,
like, oh, okay, you know?
I honestly, I remember talking about this with my therapist, because I was just like, I just want to make sure, there's no subconscious things that are holding me back. And
Yeah.
I would say from my experience, sometimes when I felt that way in the past, It's because I know it would work.
Mhm.
And maybe I don't feel ready for that. And I want
Mhm.
that. But I know also with growth in business comes things we don't always love, right? Like maybe there's hate on social media, right? Like the
Yep.
bigger you get, the more attention you have, and that's heavy.
Yeah.
So I have found that I think there's some things in my past too that makes that a little bit more of like a fear. But
Mhm.
anyways, that's like how you phrase that was exactly my thinking of like
Yeah.
if I am hesitant on it, I don't think it's because I don't want to. I think it's the things that could happen when you are. That
Yeah.
isn't even a could. It's just not, it's gonna happen. Like you're gonna have
Yeah.
these things. You can't please everyone. Not everyone's gonna agree with you on every single thing. And
Yep.
that's the scary part.
Yeah. And just to bring it back to what we said, this is where journaling can be your best
Yeah,
friend because
exactly.
if you can go ahead and journal through those potential outcomes and recognize that you've got answers on how you would solve those problems or how you would, deal with that situation, like, okay, you got hate online. How are you going to handle it? And journal that out. That fear
I'll
starts to
cry.
get
I'm just kidding.
quieter. Yeah, no, maybe. And that's okay too. You're
No,
allowed
I
to have
mean,
feelings.
no, but I think these things too, looking back, and actually I feel like my social media is so great. I feel like I do have such an amazing community that I'm like, I don't want it to change because it is so positive and it's so open. And even if we agree to disagree, it's still such a safe space. And I
Yeah.
know not everyone can say that with social media, but
Yeah.
I feel like all the things, even if they did happen, tiny here and there, it really still does build you up as a leader and building thicker skin that we all need. So I'm actually
Mhm.
really thankful for when those times did happen
Mhm.
because it changed who I am in the best way possible.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
I actually appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you for helping me grow. Um, I love that you have an energy audit and for helping people find their flow. So share with us like what that looks like,
Yeah.
and I'm assuming that it has something to do with how we're spending like our time and our energy.
You nailed it. Yeah, exactly. Most of the time, when people are at a sticky point in their business or, just kind of what I call roadblocks, speed bumps in their business, they're trying to figure out where the hole is in the bucket. They're trying to like plug all these holes. And sometimes they think, oh, it's my branding or it's my social media or it's my messaging. And they start like pouring all this time into things that aren't actually what is the problem. That's not where the leak is
Mm,
coming from. So the energy audit is for you to maybe just be honest about where you're spending your time, where maybe you're holding things back as a leader. So there's some questions that ask you to dig into how comfortable are you outsourcing some of these tasks, and where are you maybe holding on to things a little more tightly than needed at this stage in the journey. And then from there, obviously, as I said earlier, once you know, you can't unknow. So from there, we can make really smart strategic decisions about how to move forward and to focus our energy on the things that matter. I just see so many people wasting time on plugging leaks that aren't actually they're the tiny holes
surface
when you've got a
level.
giant hole on the other side of the bucket. And I'm like, no, 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 let's divert our attention over here. This is a better use of our time. So
Yeah.
that's what the energy audit is all about.
Oh, I love that. And I know you help businesses like build teams. Like you said, you help them kind of zone in on their zone of genius and then have other people smarter than them to fill in gaps. And
Yeah.
I know as a business owner, one of the most common concerns are money. Like,
Mhm.
especially if you're bootstrapping,
Yep.
and you don't have investors and you just don't have money that's coming at you at
Yep.
big amounts. So
Yep.
what would you say for people who are like, oh, I would love to hire, and I
Mhm.
would love to hire good talent too that know what they're doing, but maybe they do have the money, but they're scared to take the leap, or maybe they don't have the money.
Yeah. And there's always two scenarios, right? So let's kind of play out both sides. Scenario A is you have the money, you're just scared to invest it. I'm always going to tell you, you're going to need to hire a little bit before you're ready. So if you don't
Mm,
quite
I
feel
agree.
ready, it's time. And that's just how it is. If you wait until you're ready, it's going to be too late for a
You're
lot of reasons.
drowning.
Yeah, for a lot of reasons. So you're always going to need to hire just a little bit before you feel ready. If you just truly don't have the money, I'm going to have a two-prong approach because one of those is going to be, do you really? Like,
Mm,
where are you spending your money? Because a lot of times I hear people say, oh, I can't afford a coach. And then they're out buying a Louis Vuitton purse. And I'm like, okay. Like short-term investment when you could have made a long-term investment that would allow you to buy a lot of Louis Vuittons down the road. So
yes.
we just have to be honest about where your priorities are. And it's okay. If the priority for you right now is the Louis Vuitton because that brings you joy, okay, own that. But then
Yeah.
you can't also complain about not being able to afford bringing in the help that you need. And that's just a reality check. Like that's going to sound harsh to some people, but I just have seen it play out so many times, especially by women, because we get sold on this idea of
Yeah.
presenting ourselves a certain way. And so I always just say, like, you got to look at yourself in the mirror and say, what, where am I really? Because you're putting your money where your mouth is, right? Like, what am
Yeah.
I really saying as a party? And if you just really and truly aren't making enough money yet to afford to bring in help, then you need to spend your time doubling down on delivering a really good product or service until you're making enough money to bring in help. Because if you're not
Yeah.
bringing in enough money yet, then you're either not priced well or you're not selling enough. So your
Yeah.
focus needs to be on the sales and the delivery of your service or your product, and then eventually, if all goes well, you should start making more money, and it's just a byproduct, right? And then you'll get to
Yeah.
the point where it's time for you to bring in some help. And I always say start small. Start with a
Yeah.
30-day or a 60-day or a 90-day contract with someone, and let them walk beside you.
Yeah. 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 I love that. Do you help with does your company help with the sales side of things because I know
Yeah,
that's also a huge struggle for a lot of entrepreneurs.
it is. And I have a program called Make That Money Honey that teaches and helps women who aren't quite yet making like the figures they want to make learn how to make more money. And then oftentimes with my clients, even when they come to me at six figures, I'm like, how do we get to multi six? How do we get to
Yeah.
seven? So we'll dive a lot into numbers and pricing and packages and, offer
Yeah.
suites and all of those fun things. And sales skills, always and forever, because we can always get better at our sales skills, in my humble
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah, always. I know. I remember those scrappy early days when especially because I started bootstrapping, where I had to learn everything. I learned how to build some websites. I learned how to do that. And honestly, though, I wouldn't invest, thinking back like early days, I wouldn't invest to actually have someone do that because I feel like it taught me so much
Yeah.
and it helped me develop skills that I don't necessarily need, but I can absolutely hop into a website and do all the basics without having to be like, oh my God, I don't know how to add a
Yeah.
blog or something so
Yeah.
simple. So I think those growing pains and those times where we are learning, it's building your character. And I do think it actually makes you a better leader.
Absolutely.
So I,
Yeah.
I don't regret those early days at all, even though they do suck. And a lot of people nowadays are just like, let me just hire someone to get it done. I'm like, there's a lot of lessons that are in there.
Yeah.
So don't
Yeah.
miss it. It's a little bit slower, but
Yeah.
looking back, I'm like, I'm glad I had that time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I love that. The energy audit, is that something that they work with you for, or is that like a
No,
freebie?
that's just a freebie. So you can just go to
Perfect.
my website if you want, and it's a
Awesome.
banner at the top, and you can take a little energy audit. It'll take you probably like 5 minutes or so, and then it'll give
Okay.
you a custom report that's just for you. So it's pretty cool.
Perfect. Okay, I'll put that in the show notes for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then before we finish out, I'll start with this. Do you have any other resources, any books, podcasts that you just love and
Yeah.
it's your holy grail?
Yes, my favorite book of all time is called Simple Abundance. So, if you're on a journey of just wanting to experience more joy and feel more authentically you, which who isn't, then I highly recommend Simple Abundance. It's 365 days. So, you get to read a little story, a little lesson every day
Oh, I love
and go through
that.
it. And so, even if it's August 1st when you hear this, go pick up the book, start with August 1st, and then in January, start with day one. But because she does tie it into the seasons a little bit. But I pick it up on a regular basis for years. I'll just turn to whatever page, whatever day it is, and always get a really juicy nugget out of it. So that's my favorite book.
I love that. Any podcasts? I know you mentioned the one earlier, but do you have any that you
Oh man,
tune into?
I'm kind of like I've been in a podcast hiatus, if I'm being honest. So I
I
can't
feel
think of
that.
any off the top of my head. I've been in a instead I'm just an avid reader, so I listen to a lot of fiction books in the car, and I read a lot of personal development and business books.
Oh, I love that. I'm the same way. I'll
Yeah,
sometimes go really hard on podcasts.
yeah,
I try to do one a day, and it varies from business to spirituality to
yeah,
like health. I just jump all over the place, but
yeah,
sometimes I need like a solid no
yeah.
podcast.
Reset, reset.
Oh, I
Yeah,
feel that.
yeah,
And then would you like to share any routines for
mm,
you
mm.
of, morning or nighttime, some of your go-tos that you have to do to set your day
Yeah.
off or to end your day good?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's so important that I wake up and I see the sunrise for a lot of reasons. and then I try to go on a little walk every morning. I used to be really rigid about how far I went, and now it's less about how far I go and more about just getting out and feeling the blood pumping through my body. I literally, as I'm walking, I'm like, okay, I feel my cells re-energizing, and I see some of the same people on my morning walks every day, and it's just a nice little like touch point with humanity. So those two things are non-negotiables. I used to be a big matcha girl, but I've been on a big coffee kick the last couple of years. So my
I'm a matcha
morning
girl.
beverage, yeah, I still love matcha too, but my morning beverage just brings me so much joy. It's a part of my self-care routine. And then I do try to do a little bit of journaling every morning, even if it's just a little note, just a paragraph to myself.
Oh, I love that. I know. Do you have a journaling prompt that you go back to and you use
I
often?
don't. I'm like you. I'm just a free writer. Blank page, open the page, what's brain dump. But I get that some people that feels intimidating. I've been told that because I sell journals. I have some journals in my collection, and some of them are fully blank. And they're like, "Oh wait, there's no prompts." And I'm like, "You need a prompt?" I mean, you can get prompts on the internet, but I get that for some people a blank page is intimidating. And if you find that, I always just say start with how you're feeling. Like, how are you
Yeah.
feeling in that moment, right then, that day? Because acknowledging how you're feeling always harbors a little bit of gold, right? Like, are you
Yeah.
feeling good? Are you feeling bad? Are you feeling excited? Are you feeling a little frustrated? Like, whatever's going through your mind. And then from there, you'll dive deeper. What's making you feel excited or what's making you feel frustrated? And I think it gets to be as simple as that.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Well, amazing. Thank you so much for spending time today and sharing your knowledge. I would love for you to share where people can find you, social media, your website,
Yeah.
so they can connect with you.
Yeah, I'm most active on Instagram, so come find me over there, and I'm just at Tiffany Napper. I'm working on a new space to hang out with me. That's another free space to hang out. So more on that soon, but I'll announce it on Instagram. So find me
Ooh,
there.
I love that. I'm gonna make sure that I am. Oh, I am. I'm connected. Well, thank you so much for coming on today, and I know we'll stay in touch for sure.
Yes, thank you so much. This was such a fun combo.